Hi there, I'm Rod Bergeron, and welcome back to another quick and easy watercolor painting. Today we're going to be working with just Payne's Gray, and we're going to be looking at some architecture. This is sort of inspired by some things I've seen on a recent vacation to Florence. And I'm using a big 3/4 inch brush here, lots of water on the page, and I'm going to pick up some yellow ochre. And I'm going to put a couple of streaks across the sky in yellow ochre. Don't do any more than that. You don't need to augment it any. Okay, and I'm not going to rinse this brush out. So this brush is going to go right into my Payne's Gray. And I'm going to start laying in where I think some architecture is going to be. And I'm not going to put in a whole lot of, there's not going to be a whole lot of detail in this at all, okay? And again, I'm just sort of wetting the area that I want there to be some architecture in, and we're not going to do any more than that to it, okay? And again, this is a very light wash, and I'm just starting to put in where I think some buildings are going to be. And you can see with using the 3/4 inch brush, I could make some lines that are fairly tight, but there's so much water on here right now that it's not going to allow me to make any significant lines that aren't going to be washed away. Now you see how this is all starting to get washed away down here? That's exactly what we're looking for, okay? So we're looking for all of this to get carried down into the water, okay? And we're just starting to put some indications of where some of these buildings might be. And we're going to let the water carry that paint to wherever it is wherever the paint wants to go to. We're going to try to not augment it too much. So we're looking for this is like a rainy, very misty kind of a scene. Okay, and again, just keep putting things in and allowing the water to carry it, okay? And we'll get more detailed as we go. All right, so I'm going to set this brush down. This is my 3/4 inch flat, and I'm going to pick up a 1/4 inch flat brush, and I'm going to wet it. And I'm going to pick up some more Payne's Gray here, but I'm going to put a little bit more pigment into this wash, okay? And I need there to be a dome here. So in the beginning, I'm just going to make the indication of a dome. And again, I'm not going to try to augment it too much. I'm just going to let the water be carried to wherever it is the water wants to carry it to. This particular tower here has a flat top on it, and this one has a bit of a point, so I'm going to start putting that in right now. Okay, and I'm going to pick up a little bit more pigment from the wash, and I'm going to start putting in some more buildings. Now, the trick to this is to allow the page, I should say, to get a little bit drier. And as the page gets drier, you'll be able to get things more and more clear. But initially, you want it to be quite misty and allude to the idea of buildings. Okay, so you can see that's sort of what it is that I'm going for there, how that's all bleeding off into the background. It's really nice. I'm gonna wet my brush a little bit, and I just want to wet this slightly, and I want a straight edge across there because this is a road that comes down across here. All right, that's looking pretty good. Now I'm going to take this brush and I'm going to put it right into the pigment, okay, and back into the wash here. So now the pigment is going to be slightly more, or the wash is going to be slightly more saturated. And again, I'm going to put this where I want to allude to the buildings. And I'm going to put a little bit of this on the dome here. And again, we want that to bleed off to wherever it is it's going to bleed off to. All right, so we're looking for no harsh lines at this point. All right, right now I'm going to let the water absorb some of this, and I'm not going to touch it for a couple of minutes, and then we'll come right back. All right, so it's just been about 1 minute, and you can see the page is much drier. And I want to put in a few details here. You can see that's still bleeding off, and that's okay. That's what we're going for. Put in a little bit more across here. Now that's a little bit too dark for me, so I'm going to take this brush, I'm going to rinse it off, I'm going to dry it, and then we're just going to extract a little bit like that. Put this back in a little bit heavier. All right, I need a little peak on this dome. And I need this to be a little bit darker on one side. That's pretty nice. And we also need this to be a little bit darker on one side. So you see how that's starting to look very misty in the background back there. That's what we're going for. We're not going to touch this at all because that's further back in the background and it's looking quite misty across there. So I wonder what happens if we put a little bit of salt on this. So let's just put a little bit of salt on here. It's not quite wet enough to absorb a lot of the salt, but let's see what happens. All right, let's leave this to dry and we'll come back and check it out. Okay, I think you can probably see where that salt is still on there. So here's a piece of advice. Take your paint away. I shouldn't have had the paint there, actually, when I put the salt on. And then take this salt and just knock it right off into your garbage can. Brush all the salt right off into the garbage can. And you should really not have your paint near the salt, especially when you're putting it on, because the salt will get into your paint. All right, but let's check this out. Look at what this little bit of salt has done around here. That's some pretty interesting effects. And I think overall this painting turned out pretty good. I really like the little bit of yellow ochre in the sky in the back. So when you're looking for that misty kind of a feeling, you know, there's some parts where you're going to put in some very solid lines and other lines where you're going to just let the Payne's gray bleed back into the background. All right, thanks a lot for watching today. I'd really love to see your artwork. If you could send me a picture via email, here's my email address. I'd love to see what you create. And also, if you're currently a subscriber, thanks a lot. If you're not currently a subscriber, please consider subscribing to my channel. Thanks a lot for watching today, and we'll see you again next time. Okay. Okay, what happens if we just go a little bit further with this particular painting? And what happens if we just put in some figures? You know, what happens if we just put in, you know, a couple of people, you know, and just sort of allude to some people maybe being on the street, or some people maybe, you know, walking in the rain. What happens if we put, you know, just put an umbrella on these people like that? And what happens if we take that, you know, we just put a little bit of a shadow underneath those people like that? And you can take that and, you know, pick up a little bit more Payne's gray, or, you know, whatever color it is that you want to work with. You know, just make it a little bit more, you know, add the illusion of some more detail to it, but, you know, without actually adding any more detail to it. The other thing you can do is, you know, if you want to add more detail to, you know, some of these buildings, or, you know, allude to something that, you know, you think might catch your viewer's eye, that's perfectly fine too. You know, maybe you want to make, you know, a better point on your little cupola there. You know, maybe you want to, you know, add some, you know, sort of window details or something. You know, it's your painting, so I think you really should have some, you know, have some fun with it, and, you know, think about what it is that you want to put into your painting. You know, just because I'm sort of directing where it is that you're going to go, you can add whatever it is that you want to add to it. The other thing you could do is you could take your Sharpie pen. You know, you could always, you know, put a little bit more detail into the umbrellas. You know, make a better point on the umbrellas if you want to. You know, add some more detail to the people, you know, or legs, or, you know, whatever it might be. Keep it kind of light and free, because, you know, this is sort of supposed to be, you know, in the rain, a little misty. I guess what I'm saying is I think you should have some fun with it, and don't, you know, don't always think that it's just that you have to stop where I stop. Those little people add a little bit of visual interest in the bottom right-hand corner there. All right, let me know what you think of it. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to know where you're from. Drop me a comment. Let me know where you're from. I'd love to hear. Thanks a lot, and we'll see you again next time.